Have you ever walked into your own home and seen something that nearly stopped your heart? That's exactly what happened to Darius Cole. After a long week of boardrooms, airports, and endless phone calls, all he wanted was silence. Peace. The kind of quiet only his mansion could give him. He didn't call ahead. He didn't warn anyone. He wanted to surprise his family, to come home to laughter, or at the very least calm. But the moment he stepped through the kitchen door, silence was the last thing he found. Instead, chaos hit him like a storm. On the counter, a large basin sat filled with blue water, and inside it, his twin boys, screaming, thrashing, their tiny brown arms slapped against the water, desperate to escape. And standing over them was Naomi, his maid, apron soaked, face pale, hands pressing the boys down as she poured more of that strange blue liquid into the basin. For a second, Darius froze. His mind couldn't process what he was seeing. But then his disbelief twisted into pure rage. What the hell was she doing to his children? To him, it didn't look like care. It didn't look like treatment. It looked like torture. His chest heaved, his fists clenched, and at that very moment, Darius Cole believed his maid was trying to harm his children. Sometimes, what we see isn't the truth at all. Darius didn't hesitate. The moment his shock turned into fury, he stormed forward, his polished shoes echoing against the tile floor. "What the hell are you doing to my children?" His voice thundered across the kitchen, sharp and furious. Naomi flinched, but didn't let go of the boys. Her hands stayed firm on their tiny, slippery shoulders. One child kicked wildly. The other sobbed so hard his chest shook. "It's not what you think." Naomi's voice cracked, but her grip never loosened. "This is treatment, doctor's orders. If I stop now, it'll get worse." "Treatment." Darius barked out a bitter laugh, snatching the plastic bottle from the counter. The liquid sloshed inside, tinted an unnatural blue. This looks like poison. No labels. No instructions. Nothing. And you expect me to believe you're not burning them alive?" The babies screamed louder, their cries slicing through the air like knives. Their father's instinct screamed louder than any explanation. Naomi leaned over the basin, whispering softly to the boys, though her eyes blazed at Darius. "They're crying because it stings, not because it harms them. If I pull them out now, the infection will spread. Please trust me." But trust was the last thing Darius had left. His chest rose and fell in furious bursts. His hand trembled, ready to yank the boys out himself. The timer on the counter ticked steadily, mercilessly. 7 minutes. 6 minutes. Every second felt like a war inside his head. And Darius Cole was seconds away from ending it. By force. The timer was ticking, and Darius was seconds away from yanking his sons out of that basin. Naomi locked eyes with him and warned, her voice steady but desperate. "If you pull them out now, you'll only make it worse." "What do when even your instincts can't be trusted?" Darius stood frozen, chest heaving, every scream from his sons cutting deeper than any insult he had ever faced in a boardroom. His anger was still burning, but now doubt began to creep in, coiling tight around his chest. He had stormed in convinced Naomi was hurting them. Yet her eyes hadn't wavered. Her grip hadn't shaken. She looked terrified, yes, but not guilty. He dragged a hand down his face, torn between rage and reason. His twins' cries were unbearable. Each sob sounded like a plea. Each kick a desperate attempt to escape. His instincts as a father screamed at him to pull them out. But another voice, quieter, unsettling, whispered that maybe, just maybe, he was wrong. His hand went to his pocket, pulling out his phone. The screen lit up as his thumb hovered over the keypad. 911. One press, and help would be here. One call, and this nightmare would end. Or would it? What if Naomi was telling the truth? What if yanking them out now only made things worse? The timer ticked on, relentless, mocking him with every second that passed. 6 minutes. 5 minutes. His jaw clenched so tight it ached. Sweat pricked at his temples, his heart racing in his ears louder than the cries echoing through the kitchen. He closed his eyes for the briefest second. No more guessing. No more tug-of-war between fear and fury. Only one person could give him the answer he needed. And then he decided. Only the doctor could tell him the truth. The truth is often the very thing we refuse to believe. With his hands trembling, Darius pressed the phone to his ear. The dial tone dragged on like an eternity until, finally, a calm voice answered. Dr. Patel speaking. Relief and fury collided in Darius's chest. His words came out sharp, frantic. My sons are in a basin of blue water. The maid claims it's medical treatment, but they're screaming their lungs out. Is this some kind of joke? Tell me right now. What the hell is going on? There was silence for a heartbeat. Then the doctor's voice grew urgent. Mr. Cole, listen carefully. That is a chlorhexidine antiseptic bath. 1 part solution, 100 parts water. It's tinted blue, so it looks harsh, but it's safe. It stings badly, yes, but it prevents infection. The treatment must last 8 minutes. Do not pull them out early. Darius's breath caught in his throat. His gaze flicked to the kitchen counter, where the timer ticked mercilessly toward 0. 4 minutes, 30 seconds. His eyes darted back to Naomi, still holding his children steady, whispering broken lullabies as they writhed in the basin. She met his stare without flinching. Steady, defiant, certain. For the first time, doubt gave way to something heavier. Shame. All this time, he had accused her. All this time, she had been fighting for them in ways he hadn't understood. And then sirens. Loud, piercing, closing in fast. Darius's stomach dropped. The kitchen door burst open. 2 paramedics rushed inside, flanked by security. Their eyes widened at the sight. 2 screaming toddlers submerged in blue liquid. 1 paramedic barked, "Step aside." Naomi didn't move. "Not until the timer's done," she snapped, surprising even herself. The second paramedic leaned in, checked the boy's arms, then gave a sharp nod. "She's right. It's antiseptic. Keep going." Darius staggered back, the truth hitting him harder than his rage ever had. But when the paramedics burst into the kitchen, everything turned upside down again. The twist was undeniable. Naomi hadn't been torturing his children. She had been saving them. Behind every crisis, there's always a hidden cause. The chaos in the kitchen was finally beginning to settle. The timer had rung. The twins were out of the basin, wrapped in towels, their cries softening into hiccups. Naomi dabbed ointment on their raw patches with steady hands, though her arms trembled from holding them through the ordeal. Darius stood nearby, still reeling from the truth he had nearly destroyed with his anger. That's when the heavy sound of boots echoed against the marble floor. A detective stepped into the room, a file in his hand, his face grim. "Mr. Cole, we traced the source of your son's rash." Darius's head snapped up, his body tense. "What do you mean?" The detective flipped open the file. "Not medical negligence. Not Naomi. Your house manager changed the detergent supplier. He replaced the hypoallergenic formula with an industrial-grade product to cut costs. That switch is what caused the flare-ups on your children's skin." For a moment, silence crushed the air. Darius's gaze turned, sharp as a blade, toward the pale-faced manager standing by the doorway. The man stammered, his voice weak. "Sir, the other brand was twice the price. I thought. You didn't think." Darius's voice was ice, colder than it had ever been. He stepped forward, fury surging back, but this time directed at the right target. "You gambled with my children's health. You risk their bodies over a budget line. The manager opened his mouth to protest, but Darius didn't let him. His voice was steel. Security. Get him out of my house. He's finished. The guards moved in, dragging the man away as his weak protests echoed down the hallway. Darius turned back, his eyes falling on his sons, small, fragile, still trembling in Naomi's arms. His chest tightened with guilt and resolve. And at that moment, Darius vowed, no one would ever gamble with his children's lives again. Sometimes, the person you underestimated the most turns out to be the one you need the most. The kitchen was quiet now, except for the soft breaths of the twins as Naomi rocked them gently, wrapped in clean towels. Their sobs had faded into sleepy whimpers, the worst of the pain behind them. Darius stood across the room, his hands still clenched at his sides, but the fire in his chest had shifted. It was no longer rage burning him from the inside. It was shame. He had accused her, threatened her, nearly ruined the treatment that was saving his children, all because he couldn't see past his own pride. Naomi's face was pale, her hair clinging damp to her forehead, her apron soaked through. She looked exhausted, but her hands never stopped moving, patting, rocking, soothing, protecting. She hadn't broken under his fury. She hadn't faltered even when he nearly tore the children away. She had stood firm, stronger than he had. His voice came low, quieter than he intended. I nearly stopped you. I nearly ruined the only thing saving them. Naomi didn't gloat, didn't even look at him. Her eyes stayed on the boys, her tone calm but steady. Fear is louder than instruction, sir. But I had to be louder than both. Those words sank into him deeper than any lecture ever had. For the first time, Darius saw Naomi not as a maid, not as hired help, but as something far more, his children's protector. The person who carried the weight he should have carried. And by morning, Darius made a decision that would change everything in his household. Naomi was no longer just a maid. She was now entrusted with full authority over the children's care. When trust is broken, rules must be rewritten. The next morning, the mansion felt different. The echoes of last night's chaos still lingered in Darius's mind, but so did the clarity it brought. He gathered the household staff in the main hall, his voice firm and commanding as always. But this time, there was something else in his tone. Resolve. No more substitutions, he announced. Not for detergents. Not for food. Not for anything my children come in contact with. Every product, every medicine, every supply must be approved in writing. By me or by Naomi. A murmur went through the staff, but Darius raised a hand, silencing them. From today, all medical bottles are to be labeled clearly with dates, dosages, and doctor's notes. No exceptions. And a nursery bath will be installed downstairs immediately, so such treatments are never again carried out in a kitchen basin. His eyes swept the room, sharp and unyielding. But when they landed on Naomi, his expression softened. She stood quietly at the side, still in her apron, looking unsure of her place in this sudden declaration. Darius stepped closer. Naomi, he said, his voice lowering but carrying across the hall. You've been more than a maid. You've been their protector, their caregiver. From today forward, you have full authority when it comes to my children's health, and your pay will reflect that responsibility. Naomi's eyes widened. For a moment, words failed her. Finally she managed, Sir, I only did what was necessary. Darius nodded once. And I misjudged you. That won't happen again. The staff dispersed, whispers trailing behind them. Naomi stood rooted, still stunned by the weight of what had just been given to her. But the real change was something Darius himself never expected. Stories that begin in fury sometimes end in gratitude. That night, the house was finally quiet. The echoes of screaming, the ticking of the timer, the clash of voices, All of it had faded into silence. Darius sat in the nursery, his twins bundled in soft towels, their tiny fists curled against his chest. They were calm now, breathing in slow, steady rhythms, as if the chaos of the day had never happened. For the first time since he'd stormed into the kitchen, Darius allowed himself to breathe. The weight of his children against him felt heavier than ever, not because of their size, but because of the responsibility he had almost failed to bear. Across the room, Naomi moved quietly, wiping down the basin, folding the last of the towels, tidying up the aftermath of a battle no one had expected to fight. Her hair still clung damp against her forehead, her apron still stained, her shoulders slumped with exhaustion. Yet her hands were steady, her movements were careful. She hadn't stopped protecting them, not even now. Darius watched her for a long moment. The rage that had blinded him hours before was gone, replaced by something unfamiliar: humility, gratitude, and a piercing regret that he had nearly destroyed the very thing saving his sons. His voice came low, almost a whisper. "Naomi." She glanced up, unsure, but he held her gaze. "Thank you. You carried the weight I should have carried." She gave a small nod, her expression unreadable, and turned back to her work. Darius looked down at his twins again. Safe, alive, because she hadn't wavered when he had. The night began with fury, but ended in gratitude. Yet one question still haunted Darius. Would he ever trust his instincts again?